This is Barry McKnight, the voice of the Troy Trojans. You're tuned in to the Phillip Jordan Show podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the newest edition of the new Phillip Jordan podcast. I am Phillip Jordan, checking out over at the Auburn Wire. Hey, running the video board for Dothan United Soccer. Got a fun show planned for you guys today on the show. Did not do a podcast last week, so I got you two this week. Two fun conversations for you on the pod, and today is going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to this one. Barry McKnight, voice of the Troy Trojans, will be joining me on the show today, and we are going to be talking about Troy's run to the College World Series, going to Omaha. Obviously, Troy going through the Gainesville Regional, lost to Miami in the first game, beat Ryder, and then 2 wins against Florida, 1 win against Miami to get to the Super Regional, and things just worked out where they got to host the Super Regional in Troy. Over 7,000 fans there on Saturday as they clinched the spot as they beat Little Rock 2 games in a row. Really was the better team throughout that whole series there with the Little Rock Trojans, and now they're going, and they'll be playing West Virginia on Friday. So we're going to talk to Barry McKnight, 22 minutes baseball talk here on the podcast. I know, who knew? Baseball talk here on the Phillip Jordan podcast, but we're going to be doing it that with Barry McKnight. Looking forward to it. You'll enjoy that conversation. Then I'm going to give you the schedule for the College World Series for this upcoming weekend, and then also news on the Brandon Sorsby situation. All that and more on this edition of the new Phillip Jordan podcast. You can check out the Phillip Jordan podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. If you leave just 4 stars, you're just a straight-up hater. You can also check out the show over at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications, and please leave a comment on the video, and I'll read them on a future edition as well. You can also email me over at philipjordanmedia@gmail.com. Follow me on social media at pjordansports. Everybody joining me on the show today. Usually I have this guy on during the summertime, but a little earlier than normal because there is much to be celebrating in Troy, Alabama right now. I'm joined by the voice of the Troy Trojans, Barry McKnight. Also listen to him and watch him on Longshore and McKnight. And Barry, I appreciate you coming on, and exciting times with Troy baseball right now.
Yeah, it has been something. I cannot imagine even even a month ago, Phillip, that Troy would be in the position that they're in right now, having won the Gainesville Regional, beating Miami, beating Florida twice. The Tumblers had to align perfectly in the lock to unlock a home Super Regional at Riddle Pace Field this past weekend, and then beating Little Rock 2 straight games to get to Omaha. It's surreal, particularly when you look into and take into account just all of the different things that happened this season for Troy baseball. It's been a roller coaster ride, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking into it, because I still remember watching the 9 a.m. Sunday morning Sun Belt Conference semifinal game. And I was thinking, okay, Troy needs to win this and perhaps win this to get into the tournament, which they did, but they still got in. And they've really been playing great ball lately. I think 16 of the last 21 games they've won just to get into the tournament and now do what they did. Just the feeling around this program right now.
Yeah, it's a 6-game winning streak, and it feels like every one of those games is an elimination game. It's not so, but yeah, when you talk about the pivotal moments, especially late in the year, I mentioned a month ago, it was May the 11th when Troy won at UAB. Jay Boroff hit a home run, and that was the first time all year that Troy had had a winning record overall. That was May the 11th. And since then, finished off the regular season with a flourish, get into the Sun Belt tournament as a 4 seed, which means you don't have to play on the first day, and then get, like you said, get beaten on an absolute heartbreaking 2 out, 2 strike grand slam. Troy was up 3 over the number 1 seed, Southern Miss. Kid hits a grand slam over the train tracks in Montgomery, and you lose that game that you had won for every pitch except the last one.
Mhm.
And yeah, that Saturday, they're facing a 9 a.m. game, which is about, 8 hours after you had the heartbreak against South Alabama, your rival. Then you have to play Southern Miss again that same day in another elimination game. Troy won both of those, and I absolutely agree with you. That's what ultimately got Troy into the tournament. Then you get into the Gainesville Regional as a 3 seed. You tied with Miami right at them in the eighth inning of the opener. 5-5, then they score 8 in the bottom of the 8th inning. You end up losing that one, and it's the same scenario. You've got an elimination game against Ryder. You win that. You've got to win back-to-back games against Miami again, who's won 4 national championships, and Florida, the host team, who's won 1 national championship. You win both of those games, and then you play Florida on a Monday, and you beat them in front of, 8,000 fans. And after that was over, you look at it and you look on the other bracket, the Hattiesburg Regional and Troy's Regional. The Gainesville Regional was paired up with the Hattiesburg Regional. And Little Rock comes out of there instead of Virginia Tech, and again, instead of Southern Miss. That means you get to host a Super Regional. We find out on Monday. Super Regional starts on Friday. In between that period of time, you get into huge portable bleachers for left field. You get in a bleacher behind the first base dugout for a bunch of students. As you know, the place seats 2,000, and it's beautiful. It is a beautiful stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Every seat is a chair back in the main grandstand. And the first day when the Little Rock comes in, you set a record with 6,800 fans. I still don't know how we did it. Win that game by 10. And then the next day, with a chance to clinch a berth to Omaha, you have 7,033 fans in that one. It was absolutely surreal. One of the great moments in Troy history, certainly one of the great moments in my broadcast era at Troy, which has spanned 24 years. And you get to Omaha, you get ready for a challenge that a lot of people are saying, well, Troy's just lucky to get in. Troy's just happy to be there. Whatever they get after that, after the regional and the super regional is just gravy. They got to be happy with it. Well, no. Troy's in it to win it. Troy's in it to stay for a while. And if you look at it, they've got everything you need. They've got an older lineup. They've got firepower all up and down the lineup. You got one of the hottest hitters in the nation in Jay Boroff from Enterprise Community College. And the pitching staff is rounded in. And honestly, there is nothing that Troy needs to win the College World Series that they either do not have not had to face before, or have not overcome before. So, yeah, the mindset after all of that just to get to this point is to keep going. There's no reason in the world to expect anything less than total success.
Yeah, even in the course of the season, look, 1-1 versus a Georgia team that is in the 8 that are going to Omaha, and you played Alabama, and then you saw what they did against the teams like Miami and Florida. And, and I'm always looking at, can you create momentum even in a loss? And the fact is, the way they fought back against Miami, had they really get the team, okay, we lost that one, but we showed we can play with this team. We can battle with them and then come back and beat them on Sunday and just own the state of Florida. I mean, I guess they just should have played Florida State too that weekend just to kind of prove we could own the state of Florida, I guess, for a weekend. But and just that bounce back ability they've had in those matchups, and like you said, the bats have been on fire. The whole regional and super regional.
Baseball is a game of momentum. There's no doubt about it. The teams that win, because it's such a hard game. I mean, at the plate, if you failed 70% of the time, you're all conference.
Mm-hmm.
it's such a game of momentum and such a game of belief. And that's kind of boiled down into its essence with this Troy baseball program. And you can boil it down even more to the essence. That's Jay Boroff down at the 8th spot in the lineup. Everybody talks about the graphic you saw in the regional. He had 12 hits all year long, the whole season. And he had 10 hits in the Gainesville Regional and 4 homers and whatever it was, 12 to 16 RBIs. He had 2 home runs in the first game of the Little Rock Super Regional. It's a guy who has always been able to hit. At Enterprise, he led Alabama junior colleges for 2 years in all the Triple Crown categories. He was a JUCO All-American. And he had a great fall for Troy in the fall, but he struggled coming out and lost a lot of confidence, lost a lot of momentum. And now that, he's had more of a chance, he hit a home run in that UAB game I mentioned before to kind of gain some belief in himself. And boy, he's been off on a hot streak that I have never seen before in my life from anybody in a Troy uniform. That's what confidence, that's what momentum will give you. It's just a little bit more belief that you can get the job done, whatever comes in your way. That's Jay Boroff, and that's Troy baseball heading into the College World Series.
In the 2 games, and really against Florida, the pitching staff has been really good, especially the last 2 games. Only 4 runs given up against Little Rock. Benjamin Stubbs, 6 innings. Let that run, had that run scored on in the first inning, but played really well after that. You got 7 in the third from Tommy Egan. I mean, he had 8 strikeouts. Just the pitching staff too, because the hitting has been great, but the last couple of games, including the last game against Florida, the pitching staff has been on point too.
Each of the last 3 games, you mentioned it, Phillip. Florida, you win it. You win the that game. I think it was 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, you win 12-2 against Little Rock, and then you win 7-2 against them. The starting pitching has been compelling. Gosh, I think that getting Hayden Smith, the Kentucky transfer, in late in the year into the rotation, he's undefeated and has the best ERA on the team now. That has helped the starting rotation a lot. The bullpen has been great. Zach Crotchfeld, the Auburn transfer, was all tournament in the Sun Belt tournament. He was nails in the regional. Noah Thigpen, who was phenomenal, really kind of turned the corner in the Alabama game at Riddle Pace Field, where the Crimson Tide, who is one of the 8 that's going to be there, they couldn't hit him, and Troy nailed it down. Ever since that, he has been terrific against Miami, against Florida, in the clincher against Little Rock. I mean, they didn't do anything against him. So, yeah, the staff has rounded into form, the starting staff, but particularly, I think one of the things that has really been promising for the College World Series has been the bullpen. Cooper Ellingworth had a great start against Florida. Crotchfeld, Thigpen, Dylan Alonso is pitching a lot better. There's a lot of names I could name, but it all means to me that everybody has really kind of figured out who they are, what their capabilities are, and what their role is on this team.
Yeah, and kind of back to the bat, to look at game 1 against Little Rock and how the momentum of that really turned. You had Pizzecki and Josh Pine with the back-to-back home runs. Drew Nelson, I think a lot of people paid those home runs, but he had the RBI that the tie to get it to 1-1.
Yeah,
and then you talking about Jay Boroff with the home runs. If I'm a pitcher, if West Virginia, look, don't listen to this, but actually, don't pitch to the guy because he will knock it out of the ballpark. But just like you said, that momentum. When one bat gets going, it's like everybody gets going.
Yeah, and it's not, it's been a mix and match for a good bit of the season. Piasecki leads off. Pine is such an effective 2-hole hitter to set everything up for Blake Cavell and for Janicki, who's the player of the year in the Sun Belt Conference. Stephen Meyer has been on a tear lately, hitting about 320 now. But when you take a look at it in its totality, we said this about the first game. It's great. Boroff's hit a homer. Everything's going well. But you're looking for a moment. Jerry Miller and I were up there in the booth, and when it got to be bases loaded in the 8th inning, and Troy was already up 8-2, and we said at the time, if Boroff gets a hold of another one and hits it out with the bases loaded, this place is going to detonate. 6,800 fans, and he hit it out. They hung a curveball to him, and he hit it out. And I thought the roof was going to blow off at that point. One of the noisiest things I've ever heard on a baseball field. And I was gratified because, Phillip, after that, we go home and I'm watching the replay of the ESPNU broadcast with Clay Matvick and with Lance Cormier. And Matvick said the same thing. He said, if he hits another one out, this place is going to absolutely lose their minds. And he did. And you see all of those fans react and the players react and Boroff react and all of that. And I think, all respect to Little Rock, they were done at that point. They may have been already done, but they were definitely done at that point. There was not much rationale I could come up with that would give them a chance to win the Saturday game after everything that went so right with Troy on Friday night.
So you talk about the reaction to crowd on. So as I told you off air, and people know I'm doing the thing with the Dothan United Dragons, but I'm in the booth. I'm kind of getting ready for what I have to do, running the video board. But I said, okay, I'm going to put the game on my phone. And I saw the final out, and just you could hear it through my phone, how loud it was there in Troy, over 7,000, just for you there being there. Compare that home run until the reaction, the excitement, the noise from the Troy fans on that double play that clinched the spot in the College World Series.
You're so close. And again, I thoroughly appreciate the fact that I have a unique perch. I have a unique viewpoint because I'm the one that's in the bus with them on the road trip to Texas State and back on the bus, and on the road trip to Marshall in Huntington, West Virginia, and back. And it's a lot of miles with those guys, and it's a lot of time with those guys away from it. I was on the bus with them after we lost in the last at-bat at New Orleans, which should have never happened, and on the bus after a loss to ULM, which should not have happened. And you see all of the tribulation, and you see all of the pitfalls. Coach Walgamot said in our postgame show, the Troy assistant coach, he said, I thought there were about 6 times this year when we were dead. But the guys never gave up, and kept thinking, something's going to break our way. And the fans really, they were frustrated. Sure they were. But it all came together, came to a head when, first of all, like you said, very perceptive. Drew Nelson had the RBI triple in the first to get it even at 1-1, and then got the lead. And then all of the doubts and all of the questions and all of the dashed hopes really kind of blew out on that grand slam home run by Boroff. Everybody, it's such a baseball school. It's such a baseball area where we live that when that happened, when it became apparent that it was going to go out, and Phillip, it was apparent pretty early, it was just a release for everybody there. Yes, we're going to do this thing. This is going to happen. My gosh, it was one of the purest moments emotionally I've ever spent broadcasting an athletic event, much less a baseball game at Troy University.
Yeah, and then again, that double play when they won, they head out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was hollering the PA. It was just great. And
the double play, it was not suspense.
Yeah,
you knew that, boy, it would take 5 miracles for Little Rock to come back in there. For me, the challenge there, and it went crazy. The double play at the very end, they got a 1-out bleeder into right field to get a man aboard. And then, a really powerful hitter, Angel Cano, hits a double play ground ball to Piasecki. And my challenge as the broadcaster then was to hold it in. I was on the verge of tears during that entire sequence right there. And I wasn't the only one in that play. So, yeah, you look at the home run by Boroff, and it did what it did to really kind of springboard the fans into, oh, my gosh, we're going to do this thing. So when it was finally over, Bobby Pierce was in attendance, who was the all-time winningest coach at Troy. Mark Smart was in attendance, who was the coach right before Skylar Meade, who took a Troy team to an NCAA. I talked with Coach Pierce and Coach Smart after. Coach Pierce said that he's the proudest man on the planet. And he brought, I think Coach Smart said there were like 120 former players there upon whose shoulders all of this was being built. So I had a hard time keeping it together on that double play ground out to win the regional and punch the ticket to Omaha. I held it together, at least I hope I did. I know there were a lot of people that did not. There were tears everywhere.
And kind of looking at starting Friday, 1 o'clock, we know that Troy will play in the first game on Friday in Omaha against West Virginia, which West Virginia would be the opponent.
Yeah.
This is a team that won 12-2 and 17-1 over Cal Poly in their super regional. And then they ran through the regional as well. A really good West Virginia team. Just your initial thoughts on Troy's matchup in that game on Friday.
Well, what West Virginia's done, the 12 runs and the 17 runs they scored in the super regional are impressive. The most impressive thing about them is, they only gave up 3 runs in 2 games against a super regional team. Troy gave up 4 against a super regional team in 2 games. So I think it'll be, the hitting will be there, but I think it's the team that'll make the most critical pitches, that'll compete the most on the mound, whether the starters or the relievers in there. I think the first game, bear in mind, West Virginia is a number 16 seed. They are a national seed in this, and they've been having this season of their history. But I think the team that can execute pitches in critical situations, not control each other's offenses, because both offenses are potent. But something tells me that this will be a pitching matchup. This will be one at the very end, and you'll think, man, that was a good pitch by that kid to win the game. That has that feel to me. And as you know, in this type of a draw, it is a lot easier on you if you can win that first game than immediately have to dig your way out of the loser's bracket. Troy's done it in the regional. They've done it in the super regional. I would just as soon ask that they don't do this in the College World Series. I like to see them get a win and then try to kick everybody off who's climbing up that mountaintop in that bracket.
My final question is this, and you've been there for a lot of big moments at Troy. Football with Sun Belt titles, with, Larry Blakeney, with Neil Brown, John Sumrall, all the great coaches there, football. Then recently in basketball, obviously, with back-to-back Sun Belt conference times, going to NCAA tournament. But now you add this, going to the College World Series. For you in your career calling these games at Troy, where does this rank? Is it at the top?
It's at the top. Everybody, all of our other brethren who do play-by-play in the Sun Belt Conference, they've been calling me, and I know I've been fortunate, with especially with this season. We're going to the NCAA in, 2 of the 3 sports I'm talking about. But there's 2 things about it that make it number one. I've always told you before. I've told you on this program before that my all-time best was the 2017 win over LSU in football down in Baton Rouge with Coach O. And Neil Brown was running it for Troy. It was 60 minutes, and it was 60 glorious minutes. This feels like a season-long thing. It has not been easy. It has not been, a cakewalk all the way through. The fact that they are not only in the NCAA tournament, but they are in the Final 8. They're in the Elite 8 of the nation because of what they did, because of what they've overcome, because of what they have accomplished. To call the super regional in front of a total of over 13,000, well over 13,000 fans, that's the pinnacle right now. And I hope hopefully in a couple of weeks, it still isn't going to be the pinnacle. Hopefully it's a College World Series championship.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as a student at the school, I will be buying the shirts and all that stuff. If that happens, hope it happens. Be rooting hard for the Trojans this week, as a lot of people, everybody will. Trojans should be America's team.
It's a great story. There's no doubt. Plenty of value in it.
It is a great story, and Barry, this was fun having you on talking baseball. I think it's the first time we've done a baseball episode, but I saw that happen. I said, I just got to text Barry, see if he'll come on, and I had to talk about it with you. But I appreciate you coming on. And, as always, if the listeners, viewers will check it online, where can they find you? And where can they listen or check out the broadcast this Friday?
It's an NCAA sanctioned thing, so we're available on WTBF 94.7 FM in Troy and on the website at troytrojans.com. Those are the only avenues. The NCAA controls everything else. And you can always check us out in the morning, me and John Longshore in the morning on our YouTube show, 7 to 9 Central Time live. It's Longshore and McKnight. You can go to YouTube and search Longshore and McKnight. It pops up right there. You can subscribe. And if you don't get a chance to listen to it or watch it 7 to 9 in the morning, we run it on continuous loop throughout the day. So you can always either watch it for the first time or watch your favorite parts of it as well.
All right, everybody go check out Longshore at Night and listen to the broadcast on Friday for the Troy Trojans playing against West Virginia in the College World Series. And Barry, as always, appreciate the time, and I look forward we can do this again sometime down the road.
Yeah, all you have to do is ask, Phillip. I'm there for you. Thanks for asking.
All right, and once again, thanks to Barry McKnight for coming on the show. Always enjoy the conversation with Barry. Hey, and Barry will be back later on in the summer when we get closer to football. We're going to preview some Troy football as well. And the schedule for Friday and Saturday for the opening games of the College World Series, Troy will be playing West Virginia, 1 o'clock on ESPN. Later on Friday, Ole Miss will play North Carolina, 6 o'clock on ESPN. On Saturday, Oklahoma will play Alabama at 2 o'clock on ESPN. Then you'll have Texas and Georgia playing each other at 7 o'clock on ESPN on Saturday. So it should be a fun round of games there. So now the big story that hit on Monday, the Brandon Sorsby thing, getting some updates on that, and he is eligible to play as of right now for the 2026 season after he was not going to be eligible to play this upcoming season. In the story on this, a judge, Ken Curry of the 99th District Court at Lubbock County, granted the quarterback a temporary injunction. Per USA Today's John Bryce, NCAA expected to file a formal appeal of Curry's decision. He has 40 different bets, according to Pete Thamel and the guys at ESPN, during his freshman season in 2022 when he was with Indiana. Of course, he was at Indiana, then he was at Cincinnati. Now he was going to be playing at Texas Tech this fall. Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger, some Big 12 ADs have serious discussions on not playing Texas Tech. Big 12 ADs have a conference call set for Tuesday. And in the Big 10 to discuss league-wide mandate to not play Texas Tech in any sport. This is also per Pete Thamel, ESPN. Nebraska and Georgia have already said they're going to do so. There's been comments from the ACC, different athletic directors in the Big 12, the SEC. A lot of people are not happy with this. Talking about the integrity of the game. You've seen coaches talk about how can people trust who's going to be the rightful winner of these games and stuff with Sorsby. There's a lot of things where players, and I'm like, okay, do your thing, appeal, maybe a game or two, you don't play, all these other things. But this is something different. You betted on the sport you were playing in. Yes, you were not on the field, but still. And there's an integrity of the game part here. And there's just certain rules you just not break. This is a written rule and it's an unwritten rule. You just do not bet on the games in the league or the sport you participate, especially when it comes to your team. You do not do that. And look, he deserves a shot to play in the NFL, but I also think there should be some punishment here. And I don't think it's right. He should not be allowed to play this upcoming season. It should be it. His college career should be over. But here's the problem that we now run into with college athletics. There's nobody in charge. And we have all these situations where people can just go before a judge and just keep finding the right judge until they find the one that will grant the appeal, do the injunction, like we see in this case here. And obviously, this is another situation, too, where, look, people in Lubbock, Texas Tech supporters, turning a blind eye and allowing this to happen and Sorsby getting to play. He's a really good player. He's a top prospect. Look, he did the whole thing where he was going to get help through rehab with his gambling addiction. That was good. And kind of hope he's able to overcome this battle. But at the same time, he should not be playing football, not college football. He played in NFL, that's perfectly fine. But this is just not right. And this, again, repeat myself, but this is another layer where we have some major issues in college athletics because this kind of thing is happening because there is no leadership. Now, I don't know. Now, the Big Ten and the Georgia thing about not playing Texas Tech, I'm sure you can do that. The conference situation, now how that's going to work. So I'm going to be very intrigued on what, if anything, comes out of Tuesday. Is there any news that comes from that? And I got a podcast coming out on Thursday, so I will give my thoughts on that. And I'm going to give y'all the answer to who my guest is going to be on Thursday. Of course, now I used to be the in-studio host producer of Dothan Woods Football on 969, the legend. And I'm going to be joined by Jed Kennedy, the coach of the Dothan Wolves. He'll be on the show. We'll talk about the team come off last year. Also, King Hall, the top player in the state of Alabama who is going to Miami. We'll get Coach's thoughts on his players, him and other players coming into their senior years. King is, and this team overall. Really some really good players there for the Dothan Wolves coming up this upcoming season. So we'll jump into that much more, and I might have more to talk about all this. And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Again, thanks to Barry McKnight for coming on the show. Appreciate him taking the time out, coming on the podcast as always. And let's see what the Troy Trojans can do on Friday in the College World Series. Remember, you can follow the show over on social media, or me on social media, at P. Jordan Sports. Follow the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And please give me a review, rate the show, comment on YouTube, Phillip Jordan Sports. The podcast is up there as well. Please give a comment there. Really would appreciate it if you would do that. And you can email me at phillipjordanmedia@gmail.com. I hope everybody has a great early part of the week, and we'll be back with some more sports conversation. Till next time. Bye-bye.
The best producer, Phillip Jordan, in radio. I mean, the guy is a podcast king. He's got people on from all over the country weekly.